Hi, everyone. I'm David Aragona here with Mike Beard, taking a look at the race of the day for Memorial Day Monday. It's at Santa Anita. Race 9 is the Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile, going the 1 mile distance for the older runners on the turf. And speaking of Memorial Day weekend, you want to take advantage of this sale that we've got going on at DRF.com. You can get 15% off everything in the store at shop.drf.com. If you're buying some past performances this weekend, make sure to pick them up by Monday to take advantage of this offer. Just use that coupon code MEMD25. Well, Mike, we got 9 runners entered for this Shoemaker Mile, and it's a pretty nice field. It's labeled as a Grade 1 affair, and it feels like it came up a race of that quality.
Yeah, really good field here, and really well matched field too, David. I thought. I mean, I don't think there's any real standout in here. The best performance from several of these horses is going to give them a real chance to win, and I think we're also going to have some pace in here because Goliad's drawn to the outside post, and he just wants to go.
Yeah, speaking of pace, let's go right to the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And you mentioned Goliad. He's got a ton of early speed. He's coming off a layoff into this race, so you wonder how aggressive they're going to be with him, but he really has no option aside from going forward. If he's going to run his best race and drawing the outside post, it kind of forces their hand that they have to be aggressive with him. And I guess that puts horses like the number 3 Seminole Chief and the number 8 Cabo Spirit in a position where they almost have to stalk having a rival like Goliad in the race.
Yeah, agreed. I think it really compromises Cabo Spirit more than it does Seminole Chief here because Cabo Spirit does feel like a horse who wants to be involved early, and he's going to have to take a seat in here.
With this being the DRF race of the day, you can get free past performances for this race and every race of the day. Just go to the race of the day page on DRF.com. Make sure you're signed in with your free account or your subscription account, and you can get free past performances for this race and every race of the day. Let's go through this field, beginning from the rail out. Mike, the horse drawn on the inside is the number 1 SEAL team, and he is one of 2 in here for Richard Mandel. Actually, the same connections as Goliad, who we were just talking about, and he has the opposite running style to that foe. So I'm sure that the connections would be just fine to see one of them on the front end and the other trying to take advantage if that one comes apart at the end. SEAL team is a horse who showed a lot of talent early in his career, then had a long layoff from the end of 2023 going all the way into the fall of 2024. And he's run 4 races since then, Mike, and I can make the case that he has not gotten really ideal trips or setups in most of those races. He arguably struck the front a little bit too soon in the Seabiscuit 3-back in a race that just really fell apart at the very end. Then he's drawn the outside post in a pair of 9-horse fields. That led to a wide trip 2-back in the San Gabriel. And then last time, he just decided to take him right to the back of the pack in the Thunder Road, not even risk losing ground on the turns. And he was making up a lot of ground at the end, but was no match for El Patente, who looked at the time like he was just going to take this California turf division by storm. He unfortunately went to the sideline, so he's not in this race. But SEAL team feels like a horse that has not been in a situation to really achieve his optimal result since coming back for this current campaign. And I watched some of his recent workouts, Mike. It feels like this horse is thriving coming into this race, and I'm expecting a really big effort.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with your take on his recent form too, David. I mean, it's just one of those situations where I feel like I could go either way on this horse, depending upon how they bet this race. Because yeah, I could make the same excuses that you've made for him, and I could also say, you know what, he's been a little disappointing in some of these races. If I wanted to look at it the opposite way, I hated the ride that he got last time. I understand that El Patente too. He ran pretty big that day, but it's he's far from some kind of superstar. Even though he ran a fast race that day. Again, I can go either way on this horse. I'm going to stay positive on him in here because I think there's a good trip coming, and I don't think he's going to be one of the favorites in here. But I want to wait and see how they bet the race.
The number 2, Atitlon, is clearly coming into this race in great form. He's won 2 graded stakes in a row, including the Charles Whittingham that we'll take a look at last time. Now, this was a blanket finish, but you have to like the way this horse fights between horses and stays on all the way to the end. He's got this grinding style where he just keeps coming at you. So that's really worked for him as they've stretched him out to longer distances. He's won these last 2 races going 1.5 miles, and here going 1.25 miles. But Mike, now the big question with him is they're cutting him back to 1 mile, just hoping the fact that he's in razor sharp form right now will allow him to negotiate the shorter distance. I'm not totally convinced this is what he's going to be best doing, but I do respect the fact that he's really come into his own lately.
Yeah, he's in good form right now. We watched the replay of the last race. I thought he was even better 2 starts back. That was going 1.5 miles. So we'll see. I don't know, man. I mean, I respect that he's in really good form right now, and it's kind of interesting that they're going to drop him all the way back to the mile in here. I do wonder if it's going to be a little too sharp for him.
The number 3, Seminole Chief, is making the trip out west, and you can understand why, because he's been in great form recently, racing on the turf down in Florida. And ever since they switched over to this new surface, trying grass 3 starts back, he's just really elevated his game. We'll take a look at his most recent start, where he posed a minor upset in the Appleton. He beat Major Dude on this day, who was an odds on favorite, but Major Dude certainly did not have an ideal trip in defeat. So I don't want to give Seminole Chief too much credit for beating that rival. This horse did get a good trip, Mike. This was a race that was mostly dominated towards the front end. The runner up in this race, who he's dueling with all the way to the wire, is not exactly a horse that you think of as a graded stakes type going 2 turns on the turf. So I think the flow did benefit him, but he does feel like a horse that is at least moving in the right direction now early in his 4-year-old season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, you're not going to bet him off the Appleton that we just watched as they ship him out here to face this field. You know what? You're probably not going to even bet him off to win 2 starts back, David, but that's the race that sort of made me want to take a second look at it, because that's the kind of trip that I think he can get in this race, where he was just sort of very strongly rated. And I really appreciated the way he was in a lot of traffic in that race. He just held his position all the way into the upper stretch there, just waiting for something to open up. He came clear in that race, and he came running. I thought he looked really good winning that race. He's probably not good enough to beat this field, but I think he might be better than he looks on paper.
Yeah, I just worried about the class with him because I really have
Yeah.
not loved the competition he's faced in his last couple of starts. And this is not some race that looks like it's hungry for some East Coast shipper. This is actually a pretty nice field of turf horses out in California. The number 4, King of Gosford, is a horse that is, again, another relatively new 4-year-old. He's just making the second start of this current campaign. Did some nice things during his 3-year-old season, but Mike, he's the kind of horse that I feel like when he was successful, he generally got pretty good trips in those races. That was certainly the case 2 back when he beat a Teetlon in the Mathis Mile. He just got a great trip sent to the front end through slow fractions that day by Flaving and Pratt. And I guess there is the potential that he can move forward now second off the layoff, but he's one of those that I do think needs to take a step forward to beat a field like this.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I'm with you on the trips that he's pulled. He got a really good one when he won 2 back. He got a great one in the Hollywood Derby when he couldn't quite get the Formidable Man. He ran fine in that race, but he got a really good trip in that race too. Second off the layoff now, maybe there's a forward move coming, David, but he better up his game against this field.
The number 5, Formidable Man, we haven't seen the morning line yet, but I could imagine him being the favorite in this race off his victory last time out in the Grade 1 Killro Mile. We'll take a look at the stretch run of that race. And Mike, this was a ride that could have backfired on Umberto Rispoli, but it did work out. As you can see, he's kind of trying to pick which path to go through here at the top of the stretch, that horse in the pink silks, and he chooses to go down to the inside, hoping it opens up for him. It ultimately does, and he's able to shoot right on through inside of those 2 leaders to win going away at the end. And they've taken the blinkers off. They took the blinkers off for this race, and it clearly allowed him to settle off the pace and produce this kind of sprint finish. And I respect his versatility, Mike, because he's been more aggressively ridden at different points in the path. But it seems like they've kind of settled upon this running style lately, holding him up and allowing him to finish. And in a race that features a potential runoff like Goliad, it's nice to know that you can work out that kind of trip.
I agree. He's just been a nice horse for a really long time, right from the start, actually, David. He was a good 3-year-old. He's gotten better in his recent starts here. And you're right, the trip ultimately worked out for him. I'm not sure that it was the most clever ride in the world, but to Formidable Man's credit, he was there for Rispoli. When that seam opened in the stretch, Formidable Man was there for him, and he came running. That was a really strong performance.
And he's a horse that really has shown he's taken that step forward from 3 to 4, because he was a good 3-year-old, but that performance was the best he's produced so far. The number 6, Zio Joe, is the horse that Formidable Man was running down right at the end of the Killro when he nearly pulled off a 23-1 upset. And Mike, this horse has gotten a few less than ideal trips along the way, particularly in that Seabiscuit going back to last November, where he was steadied a couple of times on the far turn and was running on at the end. But his form still feels like it's been a little bit up and down lately. I was trying to find more of an excuse for his 4th place finish in the American last time, where it felt like he was in decent position, just never really produced a stretch kick. So I wonder if he's quite good enough at this level.
Yeah, that was my takeaway too. I just couldn't really find the race. And he had trouble in the Seabiscuit. I'm not sure how much it mattered. It was really hard to tell, but he certainly had trouble in that race. If he had done something a little bit more compelling in his 3 starts since then, I'd be more inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt there. And I just haven't seen it in those last 3 starts.
The number 7, Mi Hermano Ramon, has run some big races going back to last winter, particularly in the San Gabriel, where he was just beaten by Johannes, who unfortunately has gone to the sideline since then, but was considered the best turf horse in Southern California last year. And he made this big wide move on the turn that day to only get run down at the end. Mike, I thought he ran just fine against a good field in the Pegasus World Cup 2-back. And
Yeah.
last time in the Killro, I'm curious to get your take on that trip, because he's another one that was held up towards the back of the pack, and he did not find that rail run like Formidable Man did.
Yeah, that was my takeaway too. Just listen, I know it was Flavian Pratt, and he's up there in the discussion for the best rider around right now. But if you're in a Grade One race and you ride a horse in the manner to give him no chance to win, guess what? They're not going to win. I mean, he took this horse back to last. He elected for some reason to stay on the rail all the way around the final turn there, so he couldn't get any momentum up at all. And then by the time he altered this horse clear, the race was over. But this horse actually ran at the end of that race, and it felt to me, as good as Formidable Man was in there, it felt to me like Mi Hermano Ramon was pretty unlucky not to win that race.
Yeah, Flavian Pratt ships all over the country to ride, and sometimes maybe you might forget when you're going to a new circuit that that Santa Anita stretch is awfully short, and that trip might have worked at a different track, but with a 3/16 of a mile run into the wire, there just was not enough time for me, Hermano Ramon, to get up. The number 8 is Cabo Spirit, and we'll take a look at his last race when he wired the field in the Grade 3 American, the local prep for this race, going the same 1 mile distance. And Mike, it all worked out from a pace and trip standpoint this day. This horse is one that is very dependent on getting that front running trip and going a reasonable pace up front. And that certainly worked out for him in this race, as he was able to hold off King of Gosford to the end, leading from gate to wire. But it's just tough to envision him getting the same kind of trip with a horse like Goliad now in this race.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he can get it. Listen, I have a lot of love for this horse. I'm a big Cabo Spirit fan. They've done a lot of different things with him, and he just kind of always shows up. He's been a really good horse for a long time. It's hard to like him in this race, considering how the pace is projected to play out.
And then rounding out the field on the outside is that likely front runner, the number 9 Goliad. And Mike, in a lot of ways, he's the biggest wild card in this field, because this horse has the talent to potentially win a race like this. I mean, he's run some huge speed figures on occasion. Just go back to his 2 races within 1 week span at Kentucky Downs last fall, where he earned a 98 buyer and a 101, beating some good horses, just using his speed every step of the way. He's also run some big races at Santa Anita when this turf course gets really hard and firm. It suits a horse like this and allows him to carry his speed a little farther. But now he's coming off the layoff. Got to wonder a little bit about fitness. I know they've gotten a bunch of 6 furlong works into him, but still, the way that he runs his races, he's going to really need to be fit to win a race like this off the break.
Yeah, he can't come into this thing 80 or 90% fit. He's gonna have to be fully tight here, and if he's gonna go to the front here and wire this field, we'll see if he can do it. That I'm leaning towards being skeptical of him because the 2 fast races came at Kentucky Downs. He's got some other races though that just make him look pretty dangerous in here.
Well, let's go to picks for this race, Mike. And I don't often talk like this, but I love a horse in this race, the number 1 SEAL Team. I just think he has not been in the right situations, and he's finally getting into a spot where everything is supposed to come together for him. He's got that speedy stablemate in here that's going to ensure that there's some pace. He's a horse that can really fire a big late kick when he gets that right kind of ground saving trip, and it just hasn't really worked out for him lately. He's getting the jockey switch to Juan Hernandez, and like I said, I watched the recent workouts. I just really love everything I've seen from this horse. For me, he checks all the boxes, and I don't think he's going to be the favorite.
I don't think he is either. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with any of that. I got him in there too, but I went with Mi Hermano Ramon on top. This horse was in really good form through the end of last year. I hated the trip and ride that he got last time, and I think he can rebound here.
I'm 1-5-7-2, and Mike is going 7-3-5-1 in this DRF Monday race of the day for Memorial Day. It is the Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile, race 9 at Santa Anita. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.